今日はちょっとブライアンと、短い対談をしたいと思います。ブライアンがどんな人なのかっていうのをちょっと皆さんにね、知ってもらおうかなと思ってます。で、私はブライアンとの家族とも家族ぐるみの付き合いで、彼のお母さん、もうお亡くなりになられたんですけども、とも生前ね、ちょっと交流があって、そして彼のお母さんから彼の小さい時のことを聞いたことがあって、ベビーシッターをね、雇いたかったんだけど、彼が寝ている周りで物が動いてしまったりとか、彼が泣いたりすると電気がパッと消えちゃったりとか、ドアが自動的に開いたり閉まったりとか、そういう超常現象みたいなのが起きるんで、もうベビーシッターたちが怖がって、もうみんな逃げちゃって、ベビーシッターが見つからなかったっていう話を聞いたんですね。それについてちょっとブライアンに聞いてみたいと思います。
Yeah, I would say this started probably around age, I want to say 3 or 4. And I do have memories going back, and I had to give this a lot of thought. But there were incidences of light fixtures basically blowing out. I wrecked the TV. I didn't touch it, but it kind of just poof, that was done. There's been incidents of radios flipping on, objects falling off walls, things on the walls shaking. I don't think it mattered if I was awake either, because my first babysitter experience, I never even met that babysitter. I just got to hear about it the next day, about trying to find a replacement. Apparently, weird things were happening while I was sleeping. Eventually, my mom gave up on the hunt for a babysitter and just brought me to cosmetology school with her every single day, and all her classmates became.
なんで、そういうことが起きたんだと思いますか？
I would say that when you're that small, you might not be able to process a lot of energy. Like, I don't think my spirit energy has gotten bigger. I'm able to adapt to it. I'm able to communicate with it. When you're that young, and I don't think you have that much control. And maybe it wasn't always me. I could have been triggering different paranormal events to take place inside the apartment. I think people freak out by stuff they don't understand. And I just don't think I was big enough to fully understand the scope of it myself.
ブライアンのお母さんが私に言ったのは、ブライアンが3歳ぐらいかなの時におじいさんのところに行った時に、ブライアンはおじいさんが横になってるソファーのところに行って、そんな3歳の子供に誰もね、おじいさんががんだなんて言ってないんだけども、ブライアンはおじいさんの手を取って、死ぬのは怖くないよって言ったっていうので、お母さんすごい驚いたっていう話を聞いたんですけども。
I have a lot of my memories with my grandpa. I mean, even before age 3. That was a person I would say that was the center of my universe, other than my mom. I remember giving him my blanket and telling him not to be scared of death, to not be afraid. And my blanket, couldn't separate me from my blanket. My grandma made it for me. I had it every day I was born. I carried it every single place with me. So to give it to him, I remember, was a big deal. I don't know what kind of peace I was maintaining to be balanced with the idea of losing someone I love so much. Because that's the hardest part, I think, for anyone. So at that age, I could feel something differently. There was nothing clouding my mind to put a fear of death there.
木の上からブライアンなんか落ちたっていうのを聞いたんですけど、それでも怪我も何もしなかったっていう話もあるんですが。
I had a really good friend in school. We had the same birthday. I mean, February 4th, we'd have our birthdays together. I mean, we were best friends. But his grandpa actually lived behind the apartment I lived in. If he was at his grandpa's house, I could go over there and visit my best buddy anytime. So one day, I went over there and we were climbing the tree, and We decided to climb up as far as we could to see who could get up in the tree the highest. And yeah, I won. But that came at a price because I didn't know how to climb down. I started getting nervous and afraid. And before I knew it, there were people surrounding me at the bottom and trying to talk me down, and people asking about ladders, and everything just became spinning and so much. And so I'm trying to climb down. And I remember as I'm climbing down, something must have slipped, and I flipped back, must have bumped a leg that spun me head first. So I started heading nosedive straight to the ground from like 25 feet up in the air at least. And this happened so fast. I mean, 25 feet, that's a split second. There's not much reaction time. I remember screaming, and then the screaming stopped. And I didn't feel anything. I just saw everyone with the blank, scared expression on their face. And not even a moment later, I mean, not even a time to have a thought about what I just saw, I hit the ground. Apparently, I stopped in midair, about 2 feet off the ground. And then when I dropped again, it wasn't like I dropped from 25 feet. It was like I dropped from a couple of feet. There was no pain. There was no marks on my body. There was no injury. Nothing.
いつ自分のそういった、サイキック的な能力に気がついたんですか？
I think I always noticed it. It was not that I was noticing that I had it. I started noticing other people didn't. So my discovery was a little bit harder because it was scaring kids at school, scaring teachers, having freaky episodes, not having learning curve issues where subject matter, I didn't understand it. And then they would see me go from 1 second of not understanding it to doing the advanced work and just writing down answers without reading anything. And then that's when I started more realizing that I wasn't learning anything. I was pulling from a memory, but I didn't know how I had the memory. So every time I would do a math, I couldn't do math in first grade like the other first graders. By the end of first grade, I was the most advanced kid in the whole entire class. I never knew how to do the math. I'm going to tell you right now. I would just start pulling from memories. It was like I was remembering. Every time I did a math problem, it was like I was remembering an answer. Every time I didn't read and started scaring teachers like he's not reading and he's answering correctly.
そういうのはアカシックレコードとつながってるっていう感じなんですか？
I think it's more personal than that. Like Akashic has all that information, but I'm thinking in a multi-consciousness expression, meaning multiple versions of my own consciousness. The knowledge I would have as an adult would be on a spectrum of energy. So anything I've learned through an entire lifetime, just this life, my child self could technically have access to that information. So when I started remembering things, I could have been remembering the future, meaning I would have already known the answer. But I'm thinking that there are so many versions of just this self, an expression throughout every phase of time. Yeah, it could have been Akashic records, but I'm thinking it comes from us. Maybe that energy that we have is connected to Akashic record and pulls from it and helps feed our memories. It's like the infinite mirror.
いつぐらいからそのサイキックとして仕事を始めたんですか？
In 2005, I had a series of experiences that were really freaky. I started having things happen to me. For example, I was working at an I-class place and somebody had come in for an appointment. And to make a whole big story very short, I had disqualified the person for surgery because they had a condition with their eyes that wouldn't allow them to get eye surgery. So I had started to do their paperwork and file it away because I can't send that person to a surgeon. I could technically make them go blind. So then the lighting in the room got really bright and then it dimmed back down to normal. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I had a pounding headache. And I look down and all the paperwork is gone. Everything's gone. I look up, the lady's gone. The room's empty. I'm like, that is so weird. How did I lose paperwork? And I was just kind of disorientated and the door opens and the lady walks to the door and I'm like, did did you forget something in your car? And she just, no, I'm here for my appointment.
ブライアン、今突然ブライアンの声が聞こえなくなって、それで画面が消えてしまったんですね。それが今何で起こったかっていうのをちょっと、この場で説明してもらいたいと思います。
I'm not doing anything to balance myself energetically right now. I'm just trying to recall memories the best I'm going back a long time. I'm going back 30 plus years to retrieve these memories. There are side effects I have with my energy. One of them is I drain batteries. I've always drained batteries. For example, I started this conversation at 100%. I shouldn't be down more than 10, 20%. I'm down 55% now. So I'm draining batteries. And as I'm recalling the memory, my internet completely glitched out. I have strong, fast, and reliable internet. When my internet goes out, I have data internet from my phone because I'm on my phone right now. I blew out my phone internet, blew out my home internet, drained the battery down 55%, all from recalling memories. Energy connected to memories is powerful, only because I'm trying to hyper focus on memories that are very old and try to be as accurate as possible at recalling them. My hands are all staticky and vibrating in patterns that make absolutely no sense to me.
Wow.
But it's all the glitches I'd have as a kid too. Anyway, she walks in the door and she's announcing she just got there for her appointment. She's never been in. She's like, that's not possible. I just got done with work and drove over here. And I told her, I'm like, well, I've disqualified you because you have an eye condition called da 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 da. And I just gave her a name. And she's like, yeah, how did you know? And I'm like, oh, your glasses. They have, it's 2 diopters out and 1 diopter up. It's typical to a lazy eye condition and we can't do surgeries on that. So she freaked out because she's like, how would you know that? And I knew that. And so she was disqualified. There's no paper. We didn't even have to fill out paperwork. So the moment in time played out in front of me before it happened. It was because I got so disconnected. My emotions I was not balanced then. Everything got disconnected. That is what pushed me to learn how to control this. I couldn't have that happening all the time. So I went into a rock store and I met this nice person, had the strangest deja vu, and then explained everything that was about to happen 5 minutes before it happened, down to a detail. And then after stuff was happening, I started calling out the rest of the 2 hours I was there. Everything was happening. Well, she called me up and she said her friend had passed away many years ago. And she asked me if I could locate his grave. I thought that was strange because you can just look that information up. Well, it wasn't exactly the internet era for that, but apparently she wasn't in good with the family. So the only person she could really ask was the family, and she didn't want to do that. Took me to this huge cemetery, and I kid you not, I walked out of her car, walked past every grave until I just stood. I never even looked down and waved her over. And right in front of me was his grave. And I knew it because I was led. He led me right to where she could pay her respects. It didn't end there. To thank me, he led me down the road to a place called River's Edge. And that was a bigger crystal store. And that was the first place I ever did psychic readings for people. Basically, I was telling her everything that was about to happen seconds to minutes before it was happening. And then it happened to details. Like I even looked down and said, you better grab your phone. She's like, why? I'm like, your mom's going to call you. And she started laughing. She's like, no, she's not. And I'm like, 3, 2, 1. And then her phone rang. And I'm like, cue your mom, cue the front door. By the way, your front door is still locked, so that lady can't get in. And then you hear the door jiggle. And I go and open the door up, and you should have saw her. Her phone drops, her mouth up to her face, and she looks at me and shakes her head. Yes, it was the lady that comes in to shoplift, and she's just like, "This is freaky. Can I borrow you? Will you go out to the cemetery with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I couldn't have these weird experiences happening. And then they actually, a few minutes later, were happening. I needed to sync up the realities. I was seeing moments in time playing out right in front of me. That's why I could predict all those things. That's why I knew who was calling her phone. I mean, and some people will be like, why would you give up that much? And that's no, that's too much data. That's too much stimuli. That's why there's meditation. We have to focus certain ways so we can pull pieces of energy down, read it, use it.
ブライアンと初めて私が会った時も、ちょっとそういうことがあったんですけど、ブライアン覚えてるかどうかわかんないけど、私、ブライアンのことを紹介されて彼に会いに行ったんですね。そしたら急にブライアンが何々さんっていう人知ってる言ったんですよ。で、私今からその人に会いに行くの。でも私その人にも会ったことがなくって、初めて会いに行くのって言って、なんで分かったのって言ったら、いや、そういう声がそういう名前が聞こえてきたからって言ったんですよ。
There were things that I had to learn when I got to Sedona. And number one was I had to learn to control my chaos. When I met people, I saw moments later playing out. That was my issue. Like, you know how it played out for me? Right when I got control of that for me, then I'd watch everyone else's moments play out. Like literally, I'd see their immediate future. It's not just seeing the future, it's being able to see along spectrums that move in both directions. I had to learn control because I would blurt stuff out. Like, I thought everyone in Sedona used their real name. I blurted people's real names out on accident talking to them, and they'd get so upset and angry, and they would demand, how did I know their name? I had to learn to control that because that was a problem. Too much stimuli, too much data, it will drive somebody nuts. So, I mean, yes, it was a grand ability I have, but I can't function using it all the time. There's no sense of reality. I shouldn't be able to see forwards like that. And it happens so fast and so much. I've learned to balance that part.
クライアントさんには質問を聞くんですよね、ブライアンはね。何にフォーカスしますかっていうのをクライアントさんにいつも聞くんだけど、サイキックによってはなんか向こうから一方的に話してくる。でそれが素晴らしいみたいに言う方もいるんですけど、ブライアンの場合はそれをしてしまうと自分のエネルギーが広がりすぎてしまうっていうか、だから何にフォーカスするかっていうのをクライアントさんに聞くんだと思うんですよね。そこについてちょっと聞きたいと思います。
It's something I do because I want people to know that what they want from the session is the most important thing. They had a reason for coming to see me. And that's important. I don't want to push down that. They have an intention, even if they don't know why they came to see me. And that happens. There's something they came there for, something they want. And I don't think they came there to watch me tell them everything they already know. That kind of seems like a very glorified mentalist magic trick. People don't come to me to test me. It doesn't make sense because yes, I can pass a test. What I do is I ask people what they like to focus on so they know that's where I should be focusing. Not just telling them, oh my God, that's amazing. Like telling you where you're going to go next. I didn't have to. It didn't change it. I mean, yeah, kind of cool, but utterly useless of me because I'm still a skeptic. The only reason I believe is because I've been able to prove it to me. That's why I like to show people they can prove it to themselves. It's never me proving it to them. It's me giving them a tool, them using the tool, and they prove it to themselves. That's more powerful than anything I can teach.
それではね、ちょっと今回ブライアンのスピリチュアルトレーニングを企画してるんですけども、そのカリキュラムについてちょっと聞きたいと思います。
I'll make this easy. Like, I don't want people to think that I don't prepare for class. I do. I prepare a great deal. In fact, I've prepared a lot for this upcoming class. However, I'm only going to use 1% of the material I prepared. That 1% is a lot of information. I teach modular. I teach in like You know how Legos, you stack them, you brick them up, you interchange them with other Legos, you can buy them on different boxes and put them together and they still work. That's what my teachings are. I've turned them into mods. So if I'm teaching Akashic Record to a group of, say, 4 people, I might decide that 4% of what I've prepared is appropriate for that teaching. Then I might decide that a healing technique might actually amplify their energy in that moment to help learn Akashic. So then I add that healing technique. So what I'm doing is I'm interchanging parts. They still fit together. They're still nice and neat and balanced. However, I can never say this is our for sure curriculum. I can only say this is our goal. We're going to set it. And then I decide which teachings to plug in that are pretty much guaranteed to get them to that place. Then what I do is I add more teachings. So there's stuff I haven't prepared because I know this is me we're talking about. I'm going to see something. When they're practicing, I'm going to pick up on something and I might get an idea. I don't want to wait to use that idea on a future class. And I think some teachers might do that. But for me, if I get an idea, that class inspired me, this teaching is theirs. And then that class becomes extra special because they get a teaching no one else gets. Because I won't teach that again that way.
どういうカリキュラムなんですかっていうご質問があったんですけど、それにはちょっと答えられないというか、それが答えっていうことですね。
I'll be honest. It's not that hard to read something 100 times, 1,000 times, memorize it, turn around and speak it word for word. That doesn't mean I understand what I'm saying. It doesn't mean I get the teaching. It just means that I have the ability to memorize words and my mouth has the ability to speak the words that I memorized. How is that teaching or learning? It's not. So what I do is I'm thinking, I see some really amazing abilities in people. Everybody has like something that's super special about them. If that can be brought out during a class, oh, wow. Now the person to the right of them, they benefit. The person to the left, I mean, even if it's over video, everybody benefits from each person's gift. It's like the energy feeds each other. People are teaching each other, growing from each other. And their common goal is, yes, we want to connect to Akashic Records, not just connect, but bring back information. Well, I'm going to say there are many roads to Akashic Record. In fact, there are an infinite number of roads to Akashic Records, but the road that's going to get a person there can be a lot shorter if I give them the pieces that go straight there. Why take a winding road if there's a straight shot? All I got to do is take pieces that work and resonate for each person and build them a direct road.
So even you teach how to get to Akashic record, so there each person have different way. So you encourage people to get there their own way, not your way.
Exactly. I'll give them a basic tool, but a month from my teaching, a day from my teaching, a person might say, you know what? I don't want to use my hands. And you know what I say to that? Don't. If you feel you don't want to use your hands, don't use your hands. Everybody needs to make it their own. This is their energy. I'm not working with my energy anymore. I'm working with their energy. So they're becoming the master of basically their own spirit. They're becoming the master of their own world. And that's going to mean that I'll give them the correct way to get there. But they're also going to discover, wait a second, look at this road right next to the road Brian showed me. This one works a little bit better. Oh, yes, use it. Use that one. That's the whole purpose of the teaching is once you're connected, you're going to find stuff that works better. You're going to find stuff that's more efficient. You might even find stuff that's more advanced, but it's just getting there to get it. And that's what I'm doing is bringing people into it. Because I'm going to say no one is going to master that spectrum of energy. No one on this planet is going to do that. And you want to know why? Because we're all human. We can't. Otherwise, there's no purpose. If we mastered it, we don't need to be human. So right now, we're going to master a small part, and that small part will make a huge difference in our life. So it's never the big things, it's always the little things that make a big difference. Somebody simply says hello or smiles, that simple gesture, "Ooh, our day is better." We hear something funny, oh wow, it just brightens our day. It's always something little. Something mean is said, something little, our day is wrecked. So look at cause and effect. Something little always has a big result. If we start big in energy, I see very little result. That's like throwing a big rock into a pond. You get one big splash. That's it. Throw little pebbles into the pond, ripples, and each ripple will grow off of one another because they're little pebbles.
So somebody is asking a question that if you don't have totally quiet environment, they can study or meditate, they cannot do this training.
There's no such thing as a perfect environment. I mean, we can have a meditation room, we can. It can be quiet. We can build a soundproof room. We can actually build a pod and we can block the entire outside world from it. And we can do our meditation in that pod. No distractions. Here's the problem. When you go out into the real world, when you head out into that chaos we're calling life, we're not going to have peace. We're not going to be in a pod, and we're going to have distractions. We need to be able to use our abilities through the distractions. We need to be able to let our abilities coexist. And we're not doing it because we need their support or we need their comfort or we need their praise. We're doing it because we know it's going to help us. We know whatever it is going to reflect out, and it just might make this world a little better. It's not their support we're looking for. In fact, the greater the distraction, the better the lesson. So if we're working in an environment of chaos, I guess that's a pretty good challenge. And I love challenges. I welcome all of them. I mean, obviously, there are certain things you can't do in a challenge. If you're trying to video record yourself, you can't have an army of elephants trampling above your head. I get that. But when you got family members in the house, they're not coming by and taking a rubber band and snapping a person in the neck or smacking them with a ruler in the head or dumping hot tea over their hand. I mean, I closed your laptop. Ha ha ha. None of that's going to happen. And that would be the real distraction. I would say that'd be the biggest distraction is, oh, you're doing meditation. Let me pour some orange juice on your laptop keyboard. I mean, that I get. But if somebody's just not being supportive, well, that's the world. And unfortunately, that's with every family. We got people, and it's not that they're not supporting. It's they're not understanding something. It just doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't have to make sense. They become a way we can learn. We have to learn and coexist with them, because let's say I could hand somebody a meditation room and say, I'm going to send you all a little remote control, and you push the button and it will open a door to a meditation room and you can go in there and learn. You still have to come out of there to use your ability, which means you're going to be around the same people that don't give you a good learning environment. So learning in distraction might actually be good for some people.
で最後に、ブライアンのコースに、ちょっと興味がある方に、メッセージをお願いします。
It's easy to hesitate in life. It's easy to be reluctant. We do this. We're human. I've listened to what if I fail? What if I can't? I don't get to hear what if I succeed? Does anyone stop to think, what happens if you succeed? Isn't that an interesting what if? What if I succeed? That really changes thought perspective. What if the non-supportive people around us are really supportive and they just need a helping hand? What if? My message to everyone is, there's a lot of what ifs in this world, but if you want to know what is, and I'm talking what is reality, what is on the other side, what is our connection to the universe, I'm right here. this is the opportunity. You've seen the craziness from 2020 and 2021. I'm not going to tell you it's getting better. I'm not going to tell you it's fake. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to say this. We need balance. All of us do. I'm going to be working on it daily. And here's the opportunity. Here's the opportunity to find that piece of yourself that you thought was missing. Here's that chance to find that feeling of home. Because I know many people feel homesick, but yet they're sitting at home and they feel homesick. You want to feel better? I would say it's time. We've put this off too long. We've listened to a fantasy world for too long, and not just me, other people, not just the spiritual community. It's time to be better. I'd say we have a chance. And I know what's out there right now and what teachings are being offered. And I'm going to ask people, don't waste your time. It's either we go on this path alone or we go on this together, unity. Trust me when I say this, alone isn't the way that we get it done. I've seen more accomplished when people grab the other person's hand. I've seen work become lighter because many hands are involved. But I'm also not going to criticize those that want to try it on their own. But here I am, and I have the time, the availability, and I can show you the true nature of reality. The next step is up to them.
Okay, どうもありがとうございました。Thank you so much.